up in place now. We're going to show you some pictures of something we haven't seen before today, and that is of the support area here at the Pentagon, where the workers are staging out of. It's kind of a tent city not very far from the disaster site. This is a place where the workers are coming to get some food, to catch a 20-minute catnap before they go back. The operation is continuing around the clock, just as it is in New York City. Our disaster site, of course, is not as massive as the one in New York City, but the work here is just as dangerous. There was a landslide, and that caused great concern here at the Pentagon. We'll show you some pictures of the destruction up close that will give you some sense of exactly how dangerous it still is inside that building. The landslide did not hurt anyone, but they became so concerned about the landslide that they decided they needed to bring in a giant pulverizer, a magnificent piece of equipment that will basically obliterate parts of that building and take it out. Once they take that rubble out and remove it and make the area more stable, then they can continue with the recovery efforts. It's kind of a balancing act. They have to go in and look for crime scene material. They have to recover the dead, and they have to start the process of rebuilding this building. So many things to hold in the balance in a place that is still basically a tomb for many, many people. And the families of those who lost people here, 188 people died at this site, and the families are still here also, we are told, coming by, checking in with relief workers, being updated on a regular basis. Rita, back to you.
Brian, individuals there at NORAD, which is under Department of Defense, and also the FAA have received some criticism. We just heard from the Vice President about it. What is the sense there? Do they feel that some of this may have been justified, some of it is not justified? What's the reaction there at the Pentagon from all this criticism that they did not react quickly enough?
Well, basically, we in our country don't look for the military to defend us from within. We look at the military to defend us from external threats. And we're very, very good at looking outward into threats coming in from across the Atlantic Ocean or coming in from outside our U.S. airspace. But we are not very good, Rita, apparently, at looking at threats that might come from within. That's all changing now. Around this country, at 26 air bases around the country, we have jets sitting at the end of the runway with the engines running. They are ready to scramble on a moment's notice. So while we may not have been ready, we are ready now. And we have air patrols flying over the major cities in this country, the Washington, D.C. area, the New York area, and other major cities. And in the gaps, we have these jets sitting on the runway ready to react on a moment's notice.
Hey, Brian, from an investigation standpoint, what is the latest about the two black boxes that were retrieved from the Pentagon site?
Well, the latest information that we have is that the voice data recorder didn't yield very much. They haven't given up completely on it, but it initially did not give them much information. The data recorder, the one that tells you what the airplane was doing, what its speeds were, what its attitudes, where all the flaps were, is yielding more evidence. We now know that this aircraft hit the Pentagon roughly at the speed of just under 400 miles an hour.
All right, Brian. Thank you very, very much for the update. And also here in Washington, Fox's Wendell Goler is live at the White House with the latest on what President Bush has been doing today. Wendell, what's happening there?
Rita, the President's Council of War continues with briefings by his senior national security advisors, by top intelligence experts and FBI officials, but he is expected to shift his focus a bit later with a meeting on the economic consequences of Tuesday's attack. White House officials will meet with airline industry executives on Monday, with some of them predicting the drop-off in air travel could cost 100,000 jobs or more. Officials here won't say whether the president's advisors are telling him what some economic analysts are predicting, and that is that Tuesday's attack could tip the country into recession. Over the past couple of days, Mr. Bush has also mapped strategy for a war against terrorism that his vice president says will probably take years. And Mr. Bush told the American people to get ready for it, but also to try and go about their business, though he's acknowledged it certainly won't be business as usual. Mr. Bush says Americans need to go back to work tomorrow because work makes the country stronger. The president has named Osama bin Laden as the prime suspect in Tuesday's attack, and he is vowing more than just revenge against bin Laden and his associates.
This act will not stand. We will find those who did it. We will smoke them out of their holes. We will get them running, and we'll bring them to justice. We will not only deal with those who dare attack America, we will deal with those who harbor them and feed them and house them. Make no mistake about it. Underneath our tears is the strong determination of America to win this war. And we will win it.
Rita, also over the past couple of days, the president has spoken to two world leaders who are critical to the effort to track bin Laden down. Pakistani Prime Minister Musharraf, whose country borders Afghanistan, where bin Laden operates, and today, Indian Prime Minister Vajpayee, whose conflict with Pakistan over Kashmir could frustrate efforts to draw Pakistan into the coalition just as much as the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians could frustrate efforts to draw moderate Arab states into the coalition. Of course, India and Pakistan are facing U.S. sanctions slapped on them after their nuclear tests of a couple of years ago. The White House says even before Tuesday's attack, those sanctions were being reviewed. Now officials here would very much like Congress's help in eliminating those sanctions, or at least not causing problems if the president decides to waive them. Pakistan is a poor country. It needs the money that removing the economic sanctions could provide, and this country very much needs Pakistan's help. Rita?
Very much. All right. Wendell Goler, thank you very much for reporting live from the White House on the President and his Council of War. And of course, everyone in Manhattan is watching to see what this administration will do, what sort of timetable they're also looking at. And for developments in Manhattan, let's now go back to my colleague, John Scott.
Well, Rita, you have seen the sad pictures daily here on Fox News Channel. People wandering around carrying pictures of their loved ones, hoping that somebody has seen them, that somebody can tell them where in the Trade Center towers they were. Did they maybe have a chance to get out? And those frantic families are trying to keep up their hopes and trying to keep information about their loved ones in front of the public so that they might have a chance to see them again. Heather Nauert is at the Armory northeast of where the trade towers once stood with the latest on that. Heather?
Hi, John. Well, we know that well over 6,000 people have visited here over the past 4 days. And those people include family members, friends, people who are looking for their missing relatives. Of course, they've filled out these missing persons reports, and there are about 4,900, or actually close to 5,100, in fact, people who have been declared missing, but yet only 3,700 people have filled out those absolutely essential missing persons reports. Now, we've talked a lot about the family members who have come down here over the past 4 days, but we haven't talked as much about the volunteers. Now, there are thousands of volunteers who have come here over the last few days to offer their support, but also we're hearing from regular Americans who are coming in just to give hugs, to even come by and look at the flyers to see if they know anything, to see if they've heard anything, and to just kind of offer their overall support. Now, you can't see over my shoulder right now, but we'll show you that in a minute. There are thousands of flyers that have been placed all along the walls, and these, of course, are all the people who are missing. And the flyers have just come up over the days, more and more of them every single day. Now, Senator Chuck Schumer visited us earlier today. Of course, Senator Schumer from New York. He came by and he was moved by the flyers on the walls. Here's what he had to say.
The most powerful thing one can ever see is the wall, the memorial wall, the wall of hope of all the people missing. I suggested, and I'm going to suggest to my colleagues, that we keep that wall just as is. We shouldn't move it. We should keep it. The Vietnam Memorial in Washington is a living memorial because people interact with the names of loved ones they lost 30 years ago. This is, if anything, even more powerful.
And now, of course, no plan yet as to how they might do that, how Congress might handle that situation. But as you can see, many people here are very moved, just as was Senator Schumer and the other elected officials who have come down here, by looking at the faces of all these people who are at such different stages in their lives. Lots of people planning weddings, planning births. Really caught people in the middle of life's very important plans. John, back to you.
All right, Heather Nauert, thanks very much. We have some video just into Fox News Channel. We believe the president is back at the White House now. A little tough for me to see on this monitor outdoors here, but we do know that the Marine One chopper has taken the president back to, we believe that to be the White House. The president had been spending much of the weekend at Camp David. Normally the place where the president would go for a couple of days R&R, but this was not by any stretch of the imagination a working vacation. This was a war confab, the president talking war with Vice President Dick Cheney, of course, the former Secretary of Defense, also Colin Powell and a number of the other top military leaders in the administration with him there at Camp David. Rick Leventhal is down at the Ground Zero site where the World Trade Center towers once stood. Let's get an update now from him. Rick?
Well, John, it's been 3 days since rescue workers heard any kind of pinging or tapping coming from the site there, but they haven't given up hope of finding survivors. As you know, there are at least 5,000 people reported missing, and that number is expected to rise. Among them, 74 employees of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which controls all the bridges and tunnels in and out of New York, also runs the airports here. And joining us now is Lou Eisenberg, who is chairman of the Board of Commissioners of the Port Authority.
On behalf of the 11 other commissioners, please let me extend to all the families who are suffering from loss, not only from the Port Authority, but everywhere, our sympathy, our heartfelt sympathy and concern and support.
How has your operation been able to proceed after losing your headquarters and so many of your employees, dealing with this tragic loss?
The Port Authority is perhaps one of the most unique operations anywhere in the world. I'm just a citizen, but I'm in the company of heroes. They operate professionally and like heroes under the most extenuating circumstances. They're probably the most battle-tested of all public servants. This Twin Towers, as you remember, was bombed in 1992 or 3, and now they exist no more. Right now we have as you said, we have 74 not accounted for. The heaviest loss was our police department. There are no words to describe.
Today, people from all walks of life gave thanks for the heroes. They mourned the dead. They asked for God's good graces on the families who mourn. And tomorrow, the good people of America go back to their shops, their fields, American factories, and go back to work. Our nation was horrified, but it's not going to be terrorized. We're a great nation. We're a nation of resolve. We're a nation that can't be cowed by evildoers. I got great faith in the American people. If the American people had seen what I had seen in New York City, you'd have great faith too. You'd have faith in the hard work of the rescuers. You'd have great faith because of the desire for people to do what's right for America. You'd have great faith because of the compassion and love that our fellow Americans are showing each other in times of need. I also have faith in our military. And we have got a job to do. Just like the farmers and ranchers and business owners and factory workers have a job to do, my administration has a job to do. And we're going to do it. We will rid the world of the evildoers. We will call together freedom-loving people to fight terrorism. And so on this day on the Lord's Day, I say to my fellow Americans, thank you for your prayers, thank you for your compassion, thank you for your love for one another. And tomorrow when you get back to work hard like you always have. But we've been warned.